we'll check out how to generate the nav mesh and a couple of simple commands. When you begin your map, you'll be greeted with the map is unplayable box. This is because we don't have a functioning nav mesh yet. Press continue to dismiss the box. Now let's generate a nav mesh. Simply look at a walkable point in the ground and open up the console. Type in nav mark walkable. The pink triangle represents a brush that the engine can automatically generate the nav mesh on. You can use this tool to generate a single large mesh among the parts of your map by placing numerous markable areas. However, larger maps may crash the game. Instead, it's a good idea to mark one area at a time. Now that we have the walkable area selected, let's see how we can set the radius of mesh generation. So open up the console again, and it's nav generate incremental range. We're going to set 2000. This command tells the engine that generated walkable points will generate mesh 2000 units away from its center. While it's possible to set this to any amount, there's a higher chance of the game locking up with massive numbers. 2000 units will allow you to generate large sections of mesh, yet be small enough to keep track of everything that you're doing. Now that we have the range set up, let's generate the nav mesh. It's nav generate incremental. What is generated is a number of squares of the nav mesh. This process can be used to quickly and easily generate a mesh. Since this process uses up a lot of system resources, large maps will take much longer to generate. The nav mesh will only generate in areas that the bots can walk to. This will stop at things such as ladders and inaccessible rooms. However, if you have a hole in your map, it will generate a mesh into the lower sections, since the bots can fall into the sections of the map. To delete a section of the mesh, you need to make sure all the squares are highlighted that you want to delete. As you can see through the floor that they're already selected, you can tell that the nav mesh is selected because we can see its transparent white color. Open up the console again, type in nav delete. Now let's generate up top and see what happens. First we need to place the markable point. That's nav generate. As you can see, not only did it generate up top, but it generated down below. Okay, now just delete the nav mesh we've just created. Generating a nav mesh is a fantastic tool to quickly make a playable map. However, it's not a perfect system. In some areas, you'll require to manually place your own squares. To create your own square, simply place your crosshairs on the ground in an area where you want the square to be generated. Open up the console, type in nav begin area. And this will start the drawing box. Now to stop the square, let's say you want it right here, just place it on the ground, open up the console again, and nav and area. And here is your navigation mesh square. Now let's create a second one really fast. I'm just going to use binds for this one to make it faster. Now let's place one all the way over here. You'll need to use this tool to fill in the spots where the navigation mesh fails to generate. Unlike with generation mesh, you'll have to manually connect these squares together. To do this, first you need to select both of the squares, and to do so you need to look at the square, open up the console, type in nav toggle in selected set. This will select the first square. Do the same for the second one. And to connect them, you just type in nav underscore connect. You can see the little blue line. This represents the connection of the two squares. Okay, I'll delete this smaller nav mesh square and draw out a new one here. And let's say you accidentally select this square and you don't want to select it. Simply look at it again. Open up the console. Type in nav clear selected set. This will unselect all of the squares. To deselect just one square, look at it and enter nav underscore toggle underscore in underscore selected underscore set into the console. Squares which are too far away or positioned at an angle will not connect and will give you an annoying error sound. So let's just try to connect these. Let's see these quickly. Quick way to make them. Draw another square over here. Let's see if I can get these two to connect. As long as the squares overlap at some point, they will connect. Let's try to make a square all the way over here. And after these two are selected, as you can see, they're too far away and they're at an angle, so they will not connect. Placing points manually done is a two-dimensional process. You'll need to command the square to place itself on the ground if you wish for it to go there normally. So let me try to build one up here. As you can see, it just kind of floats in midair. Now make sure the nav mesh square isn't larger than the brush face, because if it is, the nav mesh square might be positioned incorrectly when you drop the corners. And to drop this point on the ground, you need to select the square, open up your console, and type in nav corner place on ground. And it just flattens it onto the ground. I'm going to delete all of the nav meshes now. Using what we've learned in this section, let's generate a quick navigation mesh so we have something to save. So first, look at the ground, type in mark walkable, nav generate incremental, to deselect the squares because we don't want to accidentally delete them, type in nav clear selected set. Now let's look at sections of the mesh, see if there's anywhere that it didn't generate. On very simple maps, it's generally a really good system. I really doubt there will be any sections where it didn't generate. Okay, now that we have a functioning mesh, let's go ahead and save it. Save your mesh, just open up the console again and type in nav underscore save. When you generate a nav mesh, it'll automatically save too.